Sometimes, an ordinary summer break can turn into a whirlwind of unspoken tension and unexpected longing. In this story, a single mom and her son's girlfriend become entangled in a confusing mix of admiration, guilt, and attraction. What happens when close quarters in a small suburban home make everyone question their deepest desires? Stay tuned to find out how one heated summer sparks revelations no one saw coming. Diana Johnson, 56, lived alone in a cozy two-bedroom home on the outskirts of Greenwood, a quiet suburban town. She loved her little sanctuary, a manicured front lawn, a porch swing, and flower pots brimming with geraniums. After years of working in finance and raising her son as a single parent, Diana found comfort in routine. That summer, her son Brendan, 24, planned to spend a couple of months back home, bringing along his new girlfriend, Chloe Anderson, who was only a year older than him. They met in college. Brendan was studying computer science, Chloe pursued psychology. When Brendan first asked if Chloe could stay for the entire summer, Diana hesitated. She cherished her privacy. But her son raved about Chloe's kindness and generosity, and Diana didn't want to be unwelcoming. So she agreed, mentally preparing herself for a busier household. Chloe arrived on a scorching July afternoon. Wearing a casual tank top and shorts, she stepped out of Brendan's car and greeted Diana with a broad smile. Her dark hair was tied in a loose braid, and she had a warm, genuine manner that immediately put Diana at ease, at least on the surface. "Thanks so much for letting me stay," Chloe said, her voice bright with gratitude. "I promise not to cause any trouble." Diana gave a polite nod. "Of course. Make yourself at home." Yet beneath the friendly small talk, Diana felt a faint tingle of nerves. She couldn't explain why. Maybe it was the sudden shift from her quiet solitude to having someone new and somewhat older under her roof. For years, Diana treated herself to a nightly bath whenever work and chores allowed. She'd fill the tub with steaming water, add a few drops of lavender oil, and light scented candles. This routine was her sacred time to unwind. On Chloe's first evening in the house, Diana decided to indulge in that same ritual. After dinner, she excused herself, went to her bedroom, and changed into a soft cotton robe. Then she locked herself in the bathroom. She usually did, but tonight she double-checked. Having someone else in the house made her cautious. She sank into the water, letting out a slow sigh as the heat relaxed her muscles. The flame of a single candle flickered on the counter, casting a gentle glow across the tiles. A few minutes passed, and she began to drift into a calm, half-asleep state. Suddenly, she heard a faint sound, almost a click, from outside the bathroom door. Her heart fluttered. She sat up straighter. Was that footsteps? The doorknob jiggled slightly. "Occupied," Diana called out, her voice echoing in the small space. Silence. Then the distinct sound of someone stepping away. She exhaled, feeling her pulse throb in her ears. Probably Chloe, she reasoned, looking for a towel or something. Still, the thought that Chloe might have tried to come and made Diana's cheeks flush uncomfortably. She finished her bath hurriedly, dried off, and dressed for bed. But the moment kept replaying in her mind, that small sign of curiosity, or maybe just a mistake. She couldn't quite pin down why it shook her so much. The next morning promised another sweltering day. Diana entered the kitchen to find Brendan pouring coffee and Chloe assembling breakfast burritos. They looked happy, chattering about what they might do later. Maybe check out a local music festival. "Morning, Mom," Brendan said cheerfully. "Want a burrito?" Diana forced a smile. "Sure. Thank you." She felt Chloe's gaze flick over to her. But then Chloe turned away, focusing on the avocado she was slicing. For a fleeting moment, Diana thought she saw a hint of embarrassment in Chloe's expression. While they ate, Brendan rattled on about the festival lineup. Local bands, craft stands, maybe some street food. Chloe chimed in about her interest in psychology. She was reading about family dynamics, which made Diana's stomach knot a little. Halfway through breakfast, Chloe dropped her fork. Her eyes darted to Diana, and for an instant, their gazes locked. A jolt of uneasy recognition passed between them. The next second, Chloe smiled brightly. "Sorry I'm so clumsy today." "Don't worry about it," Diana replied, carefully casual. But the tension in her shoulders didn't vanish. Over the next few days, it seemed normal enough. Chloe and Brendan spent time around Greenwood, while Diana went about her usual schedule, working from home part-time, handling errands. On the surface, everything was perfectly polite. Still, the house felt different to Diana. Sometimes, she sensed Chloe watching her more than necessary. A few times, Diana glanced up from her laptop to catch Chloe studying her from the living room doorway. Chloe always had an excuse, asking about dinner plans or offering to run to the store. One afternoon, Diana settled into a hammock in her small backyard, determined to read a mystery novel and forget her nagging unease. Midway through a chapter, she felt a presence behind her. She turned around. Chloe was there, quietly stepping onto the grass. "Sorry," Chloe said softly, as though afraid to intrude. "I noticed you were reading. Mind if I sit?" Diana hesitated. "Sure, go ahead." Chloe picked a spot on the lawn, cross-legged. She had a notebook with her and scribbled occasionally. "Writing something?" Diana asked, trying to sound friendly. Chloe shrugged. "Just journaling. It helps me process stuff." Diana gave a tight-lipped nod. "That's good. Journaling's healthy." They lapsed into silence. The warm breeze rustled leaves overhead. Chloe didn't say anything else, yet she remained there, close enough to maintain some sort of subdued companionship. Diana caught herself glancing in Chloe's direction more than once. The hush between them was thick with unspoken questions. The heat wave persisted, and one evening, Brendan suggested a night swim at the community pool, which stayed open late during the summer. Diana declined. She preferred her quiet nights. But Chloe and Brendan left around 9 p.m., towels slung over their shoulders. Around 10:30, Diana grew restless. She felt sweaty and uncomfortable, so she decided on a quick cold shower. But as she shut off the water, she heard voices in the backyard. Brendan and Chloe must have returned earlier than expected. Tempted to greet them, Diana slipped on a lightweight robe and peeked out the back door. She saw Brendan rummaging in a storage bin for some old inflatable pool toys. Meanwhile, Chloe stood by the small above-ground pool Diana rarely used, wearing only a damp bikini that clung to her skin. Diana swallowed hard. She hadn't realized the two might want to continue swimming at home. There was hardly any lighting out there, just moonlight and a single patio lamp. Suddenly, Brendan got a phone call. Diana heard him mumble something about a friend needing help and saw him step around the corner to take the call in private. Chloe tested the pool water with her foot, then eased herself into the shallow end. She let out a contented sigh as the cool water enveloped her. Diana was about to retreat. This definitely felt like she was intruding, when Chloe glanced up. Their eyes met across the yard. Instead of looking embarrassed, Chloe gave a small, lopsided grin. "Hey," Chloe said quietly, her voice carrying across the silent lawn. "You can join me if you want. It's so hot out." Diana hesitated, heart pounding. She could see the silhouette of Chloe's body through the water, the curve of her shoulders in the dim light. That tension in the pit of her stomach flared up again. I'm okay," Diana replied. "I just showered." Chloe nodded, still gazing at her. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Brendan's voice carried from the side of the house. He was wrapping up his call. "Suit yourself," Chloe whispered, flashing an enigmatic smile before dipping under the surface. Diana closed the door and stood there, breath uneven. She knew she should shake off this odd feeling, but a spark of something undeniably charged lingered in the air. Brendan had a group project at a local university lab the next day, leaving the house around dawn. Diana stepped into the kitchen for coffee and found Chloe already awake, rummaging in a cabinet for cereal. They exchanged polite good mornings. Diana noticed Chloe wearing an old t-shirt, one of Brendan's, presumably, that was slightly oversized yet clung damply to her back. Perhaps she hadn't dried off properly after last night's swim. "Sorry to intrude," Chloe said, giving a little shrug. "I was starving." "Make yourself at home," Diana replied, trying to maintain composure. Out of nowhere, Chloe's expression softened. She reached behind her neck and tugged at the t-shirt's collar. "This thing got soaked in the backyard. Didn't realize I never changed." Her movement caused the shirt to slip off one shoulder. revealing a thin strap underneath. Diana felt her cheeks grow warm. She remembered the fleeting poolside moment all too vividly. "You can borrow some of my clothes if you need something dry," Diana offered, attempting to sound unfazed. "Thanks," Chloe murmured. She paused, eyes flicking to Diana's, then quickly looked away. "I appreciate your kindness, more than you know." Something in her tone made Diana's pulse flutter. This time, Chloe was the one who excused herself, heading upstairs with the cereal box in hand, leaving Diana alone in the kitchen, a knot of confusion tightening in her gut. A few nights later, Brendan slept over at a friend's apartment, leaving Diana and Chloe alone in the house. Around midnight, unable to sleep, Diana ventured downstairs. She flicked on a small lamp in the living room, planning to read. She nearly jumped when she saw Chloe on the couch, hugging a cushion to her chest. Chloe had apparently dozed off watching a movie, the TV screen now showing only a streaming service's idle menu. "Oh, sorry," Diana said, switching the TV off. "I didn't realize you were here." Chloe groggily sat up, rubbing her eyes. "Couldn't sleep," she murmured. "I guess I dozed off." Diana hovered by the armchair, unsure whether to stay or head back to her room. But Chloe patted the seat next to her, silently inviting Diana to sit. Against her better judgment, Diana joined her on the couch. They chatted quietly about Brendan's project, about how the summer was passing quickly. Gradually, the conversation grew more personal. Chloe confided, "I've been confused lately. About the future, about my feelings. Everything's changing so fast. I know you and Brendan have your own relationship, but I also feel drawn here to you. It doesn't make sense." Diana's heart pounded. She should have told Chloe this topic was off limits. Instead, she whispered, "I'm not sure what's happening either. I didn't expect to feel all these complications." Chloe set the cushion aside. The soft lamp glow revealed the intensity in her eyes. She hesitated, then reached for Diana's hand. The contact sent a jolt of heat through Diana's entire body, more potent than she'd ever admit out loud. In that charged moment, they both realized how precarious this was. Chloe bit her lip as though warring with an urge she couldn't fully suppress. Slowly, she leaned a fraction closer, breath trembling. Diana's internal alarm blared. "Stop." She gently withdrew her hand, pulse racing. "Chloe, we can't. You're Brendan's girlfriend." A flash of pain crossed Chloe's face. She inched back, tears pooling in her eyes. "I know. I'm sorry. This is so messed up. Please forgive me." Diana swallowed hard, forcing calm into her voice. "We should both get some rest." Unable to endure the tension any longer, she left the living room. Yet the lingering sensation of Chloe's hand in hers refused to fade, buzzing like static beneath her skin. The following morning, Diana avoided eye contact with Chloe. She felt guilty, confused, almost ashamed. Was she the adult who should have set firmer boundaries? Yes, without question. Chloe, for her part, seemed subdued. When Brendan came home, he sensed something amiss, asking if they'd had a fight. Chloe forced a sunny smile, shook her head, and changed the subject. But the strain was palpable. Diana felt torn between protecting her son's happiness and grappling with her own tangled emotions. Was it just flattery or some ephemeral summer fling? Or was there something deeper at play? Brendan wasn't oblivious. His mother and girlfriend seemed tense around each other. He began making excuses to stay out late or crash at friends' places, likely hoping some space would resolve whatever silent conflict brewed at home. Late one evening, as Diana prepared for bed, she heard footsteps in the hallway. Stepping out of her room, she nearly collided with Chloe, who was about to knock on her door. They froze, facing each other in the dim hallway light. Diana was wearing a thin pajama top. Chloe was in a long t-shirt. The closeness was electric, both of them seemingly at a loss for words. "Brendan's not here," Diana muttered, stating the obvious. Chloe tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "I know. I needed to talk to you." Diana's breathing turned shallow. "About what?" Chloe hesitated, eyes flicking to Diana's parted lips for a split second. I'm sorry for everything. The last thing I want is to ruin this family. It's tearing me apart." Diana's chest tightened. She offered a small, earnest nod. I'm sorry too. We shouldn't let it get any more out of hand. The reality of those words seemed to weigh them both down. They parted, each slipping into a separate room, each wishing circumstances were simpler. One day, Brendan confronted Diana in the kitchen. His brow was furrowed, and he looked frustrated. Mom, what is going on with you and Chloe? She's been acting off. Diana tried to dodge. We've just had some misunderstandings about house rules and privacy. Brendan wasn't convinced. It's more than that. She keeps telling me she feels guilty. About what, though? Whenever I ask, she clams up. Diana's stomach churned. She couldn't possibly tell her son the truth. She mustered a weary smile. We're all adjusting. It's okay. I promise. Right, he said, skeptical. Look, if there's a problem, just talk to me. Don't let Chloe carry the weight alone. Diana almost laughed at the irony of it. Carry the weight alone? She desperately wanted to unburden herself, but she simply nodded. I appreciate your concern. One stormy evening, a week later, tension reached its peak. Thunder rattled the windows, and the power flickered a few times. Brendan again was out, leaving Diana and Chloe stuck indoors, listening to the rain pour down. They found themselves in the living room when the power cut off entirely, plunging the house into darkness. Diana fumbled for a flashlight. Chloe, you okay? She called. Over here, Chloe answered, voice trembling slightly. Diana clicked on the flashlight, illuminating Chloe's anxious face. They both exhaled in relief at not being alone. A crash of thunder made Chloe jump. Without thinking, she huddled closer to Diana, clinging to her arm. That spark of contact jolted them again, the earlier incident in the hallway fresh in their minds. I can't do this anymore, Chloe whispered, her voice carrying the weight of bottled emotions. Living here, pretending everything's normal, when there's this tension. Diana's heart hammered. She gently pulled away, shining the light between them, so she didn't have to face Chloe in total darkness. We have to figure this out. You and Brendan deserve honesty. And I should never have let this go so far. Chloe wiped a tear from her cheek. I love him. He's so sweet, so hardworking. But these feelings for you, I don't know how to shut them down. Diana ached with confusion. Chloe, I'm old enough to be your mother, and I am your boyfriend's mother. This is impossible. The flashlight beam flickered as the storm raged on. Chloe closed her eyes, nodded. I know, she said, voice breaking. I'll tell him I need to leave, maybe get an apartment for the rest of summer. I can't stay here and keep hurting everyone. A swirl of guilt and regret flooded Diana. She wished they could rewind to a simpler time. Instead, she lowered the flashlight. That might be best for all of us. By morning, the storm had passed, and the electricity was back. Chloe was already packing a suitcase in the guest bedroom. Brendan, who arrived home at sunrise, grew alarmed to find her in tears, zipping her bag. What happened? He demanded, glancing between Diana and Chloe. Chloe stammered some vague explanation about needing space, about confusion she couldn't articulate. Brendan looked to Diana for clarity, but she only managed to say, we had a difficult conversation last night. It's all for the best, trust me. Brendan's frustration boiled over. This is insane. Chloe, talk to me. Why are you leaving so suddenly? Chloe gazed at the floor, tears brimming. I just can't stay, okay? Feeling cornered, Diana blurted, Brendan, please let her do what she needs. He turned on his mother, voice shaking. What did you do? Diana's throat dried up. She floundered, unable to provide an answer that wouldn't shatter him. After a tense pause, Chloe pulled the suitcase off the bed. I'll call you when I can explain, she told Brendan quietly. Then she stepped out, leaving behind a stunned silence. The days that followed were a nightmare for Diana. Brendan was furious, convinced something shady had happened. He accused her of meddling, of driving Chloe away with impossible house rules, or maybe humiliating her in some argument. I know you're not telling me the truth, he snapped one afternoon. You never used to hide things from me. Now you act so suspicious, and Chloe's gone. Diana swallowed her shame. I'm sorry you feel betrayed, but I can't give you the answers you want. All I can say is, I never wanted any of this. He let out a bitter laugh. Right? Because everything's so perfect, right? That night, he packed a bag and stayed at a friend's apartment, leaving Diana alone in a house that suddenly felt massive and empty. During the following week, Diana barely left the house except for groceries. She tried calling Brendan, but he sent her straight to voicemail. She considered texting Chloe to see if she was safe, but how could she possibly approach that without complicating things further? She sank into introspection. How had she let things slip so far? A quiet woman, nearing retirement age, feeling drawn to her son's girlfriend. It sounded like something out of a scandalous tabloid. At first, she blamed herself entirely. Then she realized life was rarely that simple. Emotions could form where they shouldn't, especially when people shared living space and intimacy. The key question was, where to go from here? One morning, Diana found an envelope in her mailbox with no return address. Inside was a handwritten note from Chloe. Diana, I'm staying at a friend's place in the city. I've told Brendan I need time to figure things out. He deserves better than a half-truth, so I plan to be honest soon. I don't know how he'll react, but I can't live with myself if I keep pretending nothing happened. I'm sorry for the pain I've caused. You taught me more than you realize about who I am or who I might be. I wish the circumstances were different. Maybe in another lifetime we could have been close friends or something else. Please take care of yourself. I won't contact you again until I've spoken with Brendan. I owe him that. Chloe. Diana read the note twice, tears welling. It was a bittersweet relief. She wasn't alone in this emotional turmoil. At least Chloe was safe. A few days passed, and finally Brendan called. He demanded that Diana meet him and Chloe at a park in central Greenwood. Voice tight, he said, "We need to talk, and I don't want to do it in that house." When Diana arrived, she saw them waiting at a secluded picnic table near a duck pond. Chloe stood with her arms folded, eyes downcast. Brendan looked tense but determined. "Sit," he said brusquely. Diana obeyed, heart pounding. With a shaky breath, Chloe began, "Brendan, I told you the truth yesterday, that I felt a confusing attraction to Diana. And it was mutual, but nothing physical happened, except maybe a moment of closeness that got out of hand. But the emotional tension was real." Brendan's jaw tightened. He shifted his gaze between Chloe and his mother. Diana felt paralyzed by shame. Chloe pressed on. "I still care about you so much, but I can't deny the confusion I felt under that roof. I'm sorry." After a long silence, Brendan spoke, his voice raw. "Mom, you're telling me you?" And Chloe. Diana forced herself to meet his eyes. "I didn't choose it, Brendan." Feelings rose out of nowhere. "I never wanted to hurt you. I know it's wrong. That's why we ended up pushing each other away." He breathed raggedly, tears threatening. "So, this is why everything fell apart?" Diana gently nodded. "I understand if you hate me." Brendan closed his eyes, face contorting with anger and grief. "I don't know how to process this. I'm furious, but you're my mom. And Chloe, you were my girlfriend." Chloe, trembling, said quietly, "I'm not asking you to forgive me now. I just can't keep lying." They sat in an uncomfortable hush for what felt like ages. Ducks quacked in the pond. The wind rustled tree branches, but none of them moved. Finally, Brendan rubbed his face exhausted. "I need time to think. I can't promise everything goes back to normal. But I appreciate you telling me the truth." Diana offered a faint nod. "I don't expect instant forgiveness." Chloe murmured, "I'm so sorry, Brendan. Truly." He stood up slowly. "I have to go. I'll let you both know what I decide about us. About anything." Diana and Chloe watched him walk away, feeling the weight of the heartbreak they'd caused. In the days after that park meeting, Chloe moved in with a friend permanently, focusing on her summer job. Brendan avoided Diana, though she texted occasionally to say she loved him. No reply came. Despite the heartache, Diana sensed a strange relief. The truth was out. No more illusions. She filled her time volunteering, picking up extra projects. She also booked a few therapy sessions to sort through her guilt and her complicated longing for a woman half her age. One late afternoon, about a month later, Diana's phone rang. It was Brendan. Heart hammering, she answered. "Hey," he said, voice subdued. "I wanted you to know. Chloe and I talked. We're not together anymore. We agreed it's best to break up, but we're on decent terms. Diana's throat tightened. I'm sorry. He sighed. Yeah, me too. But neither of us can pretend. She's not sure what she wants, and I can't handle that uncertainty after all this. Diana braced for him to lash out or blame her. Instead, he asked, Are you okay? Tears welled in her eyes. I'm trying to be. What about you? Same, he said quietly. I'm not ready to see you in person yet, but I don't hate you. It's going to take time. Diana nodded, though he couldn't see it. I understand. Thank you for telling me. Over the next few months, life in Greenwood returned to a tentative normal. Brendan chose to remain in the city near his college friends. He occasionally texted Diana updates. Chloe never contacted Diana again. No letters, no calls. Only fleeting social media glimpses told Diana that Chloe was doing okay, forging ahead with her own journey of self-discovery. Though the emotional scars ran deep, Diana found a quiet acceptance. She took up gardening more seriously, found a group of local hikers to explore nearby trails, and stayed in therapy. Late autumn arrived, crisp air replacing the relentless summer heat. One day, Brendan pulled into Diana's driveway unannounced. She rushed to the door, her heart pounding with a complicated mix of excitement and dread. He stepped inside, hesitant. He looked older. Maybe heartbreak and conflict made him grow up faster. They sat in the living room, sipping tea. Words came slowly. Finally, he said, I'm trying to move on. I want to stop letting anger control me. Diana's eyes watered. I'm so glad to hear that. I've been worried about you every day. He managed a small smile. I know. I'm not saying everything's fixed, but I want a relationship with my mom. And if that means acknowledging what happened and letting it go, then that's what I'll do. Tears slipped down Diana's cheeks. She took his hand, and he allowed it. I love you, Brendan. I'm sorry for my part in all of this. He nodded, swallowing hard. We'll figure it out, Mom. Slowly. This tangled story shows how unpredictable love and attraction can be, especially when they strike in close quarters and unexpected circumstances. Guilt, betrayal, confusion, and heartbreak all swirl together, leaving everyone feeling unmoored. But what do professionals say about such dilemmas? Psychological perspective and recommendations. Commentary by Dr. Rebecca Lane, licensed clinical psychologist and family therapist. Awkward, unplanned attractions. Feelings don't always respect social norms or family boundaries. Two adults of consenting age, even with a significant age difference, can experience attraction. The key is how they handle those feelings once they surface. Recognizing that you're tempted by something taboo doesn't automatically make you a bad person. It's the actions you take that can cause harm. Ethical and emotional responsibilities. When one person is the parent of your partner, the stakes are extraordinarily high. The potential fallout is immense. Jealousy, ruptured family ties, intense guilt. It's crucial to accept that pursuing these feelings can lead to deep, long-lasting damage, especially to someone you both care about. Open, timely communication. As uncomfortable as it may be, addressing an emotional entanglement sooner can prevent larger betrayals. Secrecy often amplifies hurt and suspicion. Though honesty can be painful, it also paves the way for healthier resolutions. Setting and respecting boundaries. In the story, living under one roof magnified the attraction. Creating distance, be it physical or emotional, can help each person sort through their confusion. Sometimes, the best decision is a temporary separation, so no further lines are crossed. Understanding confusion about identity. Chloe's turmoil might reflect broader questions about her identity, sexual orientation, emotional needs, personal growth. These questions often surface in one's early to mid-20s. Therapy or counseling can provide clarity without endangering important relationships. Respecting the son's perspective. Brendan experiences deep betrayal and confusion, feeling caught between two people he trusts. It's vital for both mother and girlfriend or ex-girlfriend to acknowledge his emotional landscape and avoid dismissing his pain as secondary. Long-term healing. Recovery from such a breach of trust requires patience. All parties need space to grieve, unmet expectations. Rebuilding relationships, like the bond between Diana and Brendan, demands consistent, humble effort over time, often with the help of professional support. This story illustrates that unexpected attractions can arise in the most complicated of contexts, leading to a messy aftermath of emotions. While it's easy to judge from the outside, everyone involved must navigate guilt, longing, heartbreak, and the hope for reconciliation. Professional guidance, honest dialogues, and respect for each person's emotional well-being are crucial steps toward healing and preventing further harm.